There we go. The federal government is not all powerful, right? So by this recording just started, we're going over some very, very basic pieces of government and politics for the United States. And this is basically the first point. And again, all limited government means is that government is not all powerful. And this is something that the U.S. is maybe not, well, no, founded on. Yeah, I would say founded on. The U.S. is founded on this concept, right? The government is not all powerful. The rules or limits placed on the government by the Constitution are examples of limited government in practice, right? So the idea is that the government is not all powerful. They cannot just do whatever they want, right? You have rights that are protected beyond what the government can do. That is limited government in a nutshell. They're not all powerful. They have limits. Now let's get into some of these things. Now these should all have a slide. The only one that doesn't is republicanism, but we'll talk about it in a bit. John Locke came up with most of these concepts, by the way. Natural rights is his straight up. He's an Enlightenment philosopher, Jefferson's favorite. I think we talked about him already. He also thought up the social contract concept. But basically what a natural right is, or as Jefferson called it, an unalienable right, was a right that you're born with, right? And again, you guys, I said right a bunch. A right that you're born with. You guys should know this already. It's a right that cannot be taken away or given by the government because you're born with it. It's something you already have. It's innate. It's inherent. John Locke named these rights as life, liberty, property. Thomas Jefferson rewrote them sort of as life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But again, these are rights you have inherently. It's something you get when you're born in the world, right? Now, not necessarily, but that's what the Enlightenment thinking is arguing. It's a natural right of man. It's something everybody's born with. It's something the government can't give you. It's something the government can't take away because you already have it from the second you're born. Popular sovereignty is the idea that people have the final authority or the strongest authority in the government. You practice popular sovereignty by voting, right? Popular sovereignty is protected in the Constitution by the phrase, we the people. The idea that at the end of the day, when people don't like their leader, they can remove them is popular sovereignty. And when popular sovereignty works completely and thoroughly, that concept flows through without, right? That concept is inherent. It's like a circle, and it goes around and around and around. This is a big one. This is one we'll talk about. Now and again, John Locke's ideas all kind of fit really well together. That's his pamphlet that he wrote, or essay. But John Locke had this thing called the social contract, and it argues that the only right people give up when they agree to enter society, right, and get the benefits of society, is the right to punish others for violating the laws. So under the social contract, the government or kings and the people have this deal. The deal is the people give you power, government, you protect our rights. And it states that if you, government, misuse your power, then we get to replace and overthrow you, right? And it's this contract that do your job and will keep you in place. When you stop, we're going to overthrow you. That's the concept of the social contract. Now, another one that I didn't make a slide for, but that's in there is republicanism. And basically, republicanism is the idea that you pick somebody who you send to speak on your behalf in the government, right? And it's Congress. Republicanism is Congress. Rome was a republic. The idea that the people choose a couple of people to speak for them on their behalf in Congress. Now, key point number 2, Declaration of Independence, drafted by Jefferson with the help of Adams and Franklin, provides a foundation for the popular sovereignty in the United States. Now, that's not where this ends. At the Constitutional Convention, you get other people that write a blueprint for the political democracy that the United States has. Why are we talking about this? Basically, just notes, there's something to note. The U.S. has a very unique style of democracy, and it's one that does not often get repeated. Even in the governments we create, like all those old pocket governments we made in the Cold War and stuff, we don't give them our form of democracy. We use we give them a more traditional one. It's kind of a social experiment, the United States. It's all these ideas from the Enlightenment melded together and made into a country. It's a really interesting one, and it's one that's lasted a long time. We have, I believe, the longest running government constitution still being in use. It's the oldest one. A lot of others are newer, much newer. So something to keep in mind. Some people make multiple attempts at constitutions. They like, maybe this will work, and then it doesn't, and so they. So it's interesting to that concept. All right. What I want to do now, so I want to show you a really cool little clip. Let me intro the clip first, and it's basically it's from a show. It's from an old HBO show called John Adams, and it's a portrayal of Jefferson, Franklin, and Adams kind of writing the Declaration and talking about some of the lines. There's a really cool point about the slavery line that was removed and a couple other things. So I want to show you guys that really quick. So give me 1 second.
This is something altogether unexpected. Not only a declaration of our independence, but of the rights of all men. This is well said, sir. Very, very well said. The Christian king of Great Britain has waged cruel war against human nature itself, in the persons of a distant people who never offended him, captivating and carrying them into slavery in another hemisphere.
Yes, you lay the evils of slavery at the feet of the king, but you say nothing of slavery itself, sir. Now, surely, if the trade is outlawed but ownership is not, then those unfortunate Negroes still in servitude will become a more lucrative commodity.
Well, that's not what I intended, Dr. Franklin. Slavery is an abomination and must be loudly proclaimed as such, but I own that neither I nor any man has any immediate solution to the problem.
Oh, but 'tis no matter. The issue before us is independence and not emancipation.
Now, Dr. Franklin, this document is
something our friends in the Congress will debate, but I would be very surprised if they will countenance an attack on slavery. No. We hold these truths to be sacred and undeniable, that all men are created equal, etc. Sacred and undeniable. Smacks of the pulpit.
Does it?
These truths are self-evident, are they not?
Perhaps.
Self-evident, then. Self-evident?
Self-evident.
Do not mistake me, sir. I share your sentiment.
Every single word was precisely chosen. I assure you of that, Dr. Franklin.
Yes, but yours will not be the only hand in this document. It cannot be. They will try to mangle it, and they may succeed.
There may be expressions which I would not have inserted if I had drawn it up, but I will defend every word of it.
Well, it's what I believe.
This is a marvelous invention, Mr. Jefferson.
Yes, I went through a number of variations. This is by far the most successful. Simplest is always the best. It's 2 seats, and the top one swivels on rollers made from the window sash pulleys.
Oh, most ingenious.
So that was just a little piece there. Again, my favorite little act of that is the the debate they have over whether or not the Declaration of Independence should ban slavery, right? That concept is not, it wasn't lost on most of the founders, I'll say, not all of them, but most of them. And they were slaveholders, and a lot of them knew the hypocrisy in what they were doing, creating this nation, right, about liberty and stuff, while holding slaves. And Jefferson specifically, if you read a lot of his writings later in life, in his letters he wrote to Adams, like they talk about how still this slavery thing is a problem, and how it's going to be a problem, how it could ruin the country or destroy the country, which it almost did in the Civil War. It's just an interesting concept to note, the idea that they are like, we don't have an answer and we got to get this done, so we're going to do it anyways. It's interesting. That's all. So with that being said, let me